Hello everyone, thank you for coming back to my channel. In this video, I will read to you chapter 14 from the book The Law of Money. The money lessons continue through generations. When life became larger than survival. When my children were still young, small hands, soft voices, shoes that always seemed to be outgrown overnight. I was already a mother of two sons. They were on in grade school and kindergarten, at the age where curiosity blooms freely and the world still feels safe enough to trust. Life no longer revolves around survival alone. It has shifted into something deeper: responsibility, continuity, and meaning. My days were full, yet never chaotic. I divided my time between managing the store and taking care of my children. But in truth, these were never two separate worlds. The store was not just a business, it was an extension of my family, my values, and my vision for the future. Everything I did, every decision I made, carried the quiet questions. What will this teach my children? My focus was always clear. The children came first. Their well-being, their emotional stability, and their sense of safety matter more than any profit margin. Then came the family as a whole, keeping the household grounded, peaceful, and purposeful. And finally, the business I started with the support of my husband, my own courage, and my own belief that life could be rebuilt with dignity after loss. The store became the image of all of that. That was why I named it Xuan Children's World. The name was not marketing, it was true. The store carried children's clothing, but more importantly, it carried love, care, and intention. Every item reflected by my belief that children deserve beauty, quality, and respect. My children were the best dressed kids in town, not because of vanity, but because I wanted them to feel confident and secure in who they were. Clothing, to me, was never about showing off. It was about self-respect. When a child walks into the world feeling well cared for, they walk differently, they speak differently, they believe differently. I had time then, time to do what I love, time to work with my hands, time to dream while being practical. And at the same time, I continue another quiet mission, sponsoring the rest of my family who were still in Vietnam. There was no moment wasted in those years. Life felt full, not busy, but meaningful. Each day carried weight, direction, and intention. 1990, the year well took a new meaning. The year 1990 remains etched in my heart like a sacred marker. It was the year my third son Michael was born, bringing new life into our home, new laughter, new responsibility, and new grace. But it was also the year of our family reunion, the year of long separation, the waiting, the paperwork, the prayers, and the endurance finally bore fruit. For many people, wealth is counted in numbers. For me, wealth arrived in human form. I still remember the feeling, not excitement in the loud sense, but a deep grounding peace, a sense of completion. Something inside me whisper, this is what all the effort was for. And most of all, thanks to my husband for his unwavering support to make this dream come true. Wealth, to me, has never been only about money. Prosperity has never been measured by what I possess. That year taught me that true prosperity is the ability to gather what was once scattered, to bring the family back together, to sit at one table, to hear family voices again, to see elders age in safety, to watch children grow without fear. The fruits I harvested were not financial statements, they were moments, shared meals, stories retold, own wounds softened by time and understanding. When I look back, I can say with certainty, if I had to define wealth, happiness, and success in one season of life, that was it. We had it all. Not because life was easy, but because life makes sense. Teaching children what money really is. As my children grew, I knew instinctively that money education could not be delayed until adulthood. Children learn money long before they learn numbers. They learn it through observation, how parents react to loss, how they talk about work, how they respond to giving, and how they treat what they own. So I begin to teach them the same way I had learned, slowly, practically, and with joy. I taught them to save one coin at a time, not because the coin mattered, but because the habit did. Saving was never presented as a restriction. It was framed as respect for effort, for time, and for future needs. We redeemed recycled bottles together. It wasn't glamorous work. It was honest. The children learned that money comes from contribution, not entitlement, that even small actions, when done consistently, create value. I taught them to raise rabbits and sold them at the local shops. The children learn responsibility, feeding, cleaning, caring. They learn that income is connected to stewardship. If you neglect what you are given, it cannot grow. If you nurture it, it multiplies naturally. At one point, life surprised us again. We had a litter of 9 Dalmatian puppies. The house was filled with energy, noise, and endless laughter. Friends and relatives came to see them, and eventually we sold them to the loving homes. The children learned another lesson. Abundance often arrives unexpectedly, and how you handle it matters. They learn pricing, not greed but fairness. They learn communication. They learn trust. They learn that money is not separate from relationships. These lessons were never forced. They were woven into daily life, into chores, into conversations, into laughter around the dinner table. The invisible curriculum passed down. What I was really teaching my children was not how to make money, but how to relate it to it. Money in our home was never a source of fear. It was never whispered about behind closed doors. It was not worshipped, nor was it resented. It was treated as a tool, neutral, powerful, and responsive to intention. They saw me work, but also saw me give. They saw discipline, but they also saw generosity. They understood what money flows where there is movement, effort, and clarity. Most importantly, they learned that money is connected to life, to care, to responsibility, to creativity. I never told them you must be rich. I told them be useful, be responsible, be kind, the rest will follow. Money lessons, when passed through generations, are rarely verbal, they are emotional. They live in a nervous system. Children absorb how adults react under pressure, how they behave in abundance, and how they handle loss. Because of my early life was shaped by loss, by leaving everything behind when Vietnam collapsed, I was careful not to pass fear down. I taught them impermanence, yes, but I also taught them resilience. I wanted my children to know that even if everything is taken away, skills, values, and mindset remain. That is the only inheritance no one can steal. Life as a circle of joy and lessons. Looking back now, I see life as a circle, one that keeps expanding. The joy of breaking open a piggy bank as a child, a pain of leaving everything behind at 16, the courage to rebuild, the patience to raise children, the wisdom to teach without controlling. Everything is connected. Life is not divided into work and family, money and love, success and sacrifice. When lived consciously, it becomes one continuous lesson flowing from one generation to the next. The money lessons did not stop with me. They continued through my children, and one day they will pass through their children as well, not as rules but as instinct. This is a quiet power of generational wealth, not wealth stored in the banks, but wealth stored in values, not wealth measured in assets, but wealth measured in confidence, responsibility, and peace. Life at its best is a circle of joy, effort, learning, and gratitude. And when money moves through that circle with respect and understanding, it stops being a source of fear and becomes a bridge between generations. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy it. Please click like and subscribe to my channel.